Welcome back to our series here through the 52 playing cards with me, Helmar Rudolph, and today we'll be looking at the Eight of Hearts. Technically, the Eight of Hearts is placed on the Neptune line in the Jupiter column, and being a Jupiter card bestows it with a number of benefits and protection. The Eight of Hearts is also the playboy or the playgirl card, because 8 is about power and attraction, and hearts is about the emotional side. So they hold a significant amount of emotional power over others. The downside of that is that they have to learn to become emotionally self-sufficient, because only this self-sufficiency prevents them from exerting that power over others and maybe even abusing it. And how that is confirmed in a way is when we look at the Eight of Hearts Mercury card, which is a Six of Clubs. The Six of Clubs and most of the cards on the Neptune line, having cards on the Crown line, is another very strong card. And here in Mercury, the Six of Clubs means they have to be very exact when it comes to communication. They have to stick to the straight and narrow, because if their communication is not in integrity and not in an alignment, they will get a very quick rebuke. Sixes being karma cards. The same is true for their relationships, because here we find the missionary card, and that is the Six of Spades. So also very pragmatic in their relationships. They know what they want. They usually get it, but they also have to be very responsible, and often they have to compromise when it comes to relationships, because that is what the Six of Spades then demands or requests from the Eight of Hearts birth card. It is said that they attract deep fated connections and that there's rarely anything casual about love for them. So they're very serious about this. And they take things seriously because the Six is also the family card, the social card. And being a karma card, or a karmic card rather, it means that if in relationships they stray off the straight and narrow, they also get instant and swift rebuke. So here, with two sixes in very important positions, the Eight of Hearts is required to really stick to the law and stay in alignment, because otherwise, both on the mental side, on the communication side, and the relationship side, it will suffer if it doesn't. Their harmony comes through maturity. So they're not here for drama, they're here for growth. And obviously that is important, especially if one from birth is bestowed with emotional power, but that needs to be learned, that needs to be handled, that needs to be managed. So here the Six in Venus with an eight birth card is a wonderful combination, again, showing us how things need to be adjusted in order to be beneficial for our own life path and our own life experience. So yes, you have the emotional power. Yes, you can use it, but yes, you can also abuse it. And in this case, if you do abuse it, then your relationships will be fated. And that also means they can also come to a quick end. So here's a message for the Eight of Hearts. Don't do that. Stay pragmatic, stay in alignment, be honest, create harmony through maturity rather than the power that has been given to you. Then we've got the Queen of Hearts in Mars. So there's a fiery element, and the Queen of Hearts being the double Neptune card, there's an element of unhingedness, if I can call it such, because Neptune is the last planet out there, very sort of etheric and not really grounded in reality. Neptune deceives. Neptune creates confusion. And that in a double dose for that Queen of Hearts, and that Queen of Hearts and Mars for the Eight of Hearts birth card, means that there's a motherly energy there. that fiercely protects others, but that can also be misguided once again in terms of emotions, because Mars, being the god of war, Mars standing for aggression, dynamic decisions, clarity, male initiative, that is great, but sort of if that goes the wrong way with that Queen of Hearts in Mars, then you can imagine that their relationships can go completely haywire. So once again, here there's a court card. It's a high card. It demands responsibility from the Eight of Hearts, and it is best used when it is employed in a very protective and motherly and caring way, because that's the high side of the Queen of Hearts. Then we move to the crown line, and in the crown line we find the 10 of clubs in Jupiter. So here abundance shows through knowledge and communication, because the 10 of clubs is the card of the teacher, because it's the manifestation of knowledge, and tens being not single cards, not being individual cards, but cards that revolve around people. This 10 of clubs in Jupiter tells us that the 8 of hearts can be very popular with other people when it communicates, when it teaches. And it has a lot to teach because of two rather tricky cards, the 6 of clubs in Mercury and the 6 of spades in Venus. So being a hearts card, having a hearts card in Mars, having a clubs card, communication, intellect in the planet of intellect, and then having another clubs card in the planet of expansion and growth and benefits, it shows us that the 8 of hearts can teach others how to live in alignment, how to regulate and balance their emotions, and how to communicate clearly and also in alignment. Truth and maturity is the keyword, or are the keywords here, and responsibility and compromise. Because with that immense power that the 8 holds, there's always inevitably an element of compromise there, because they can't, as they would love to, they always have to hold back because they have the power, but others don't necessarily share that power. So there's an imbalance, and that imbalance needs to be balanced, and that's for the 8 of hearts to do, and that's how it can also communicate this and help others and teach others exactly that same, or to accomplish and achieve that same balance. It is also said that prosperity follows when they share their knowledge. Tens of clubs are about sharing knowledge. That's teaching. It doesn't have to be a formal teaching position, but they're here to share this, to share their life journey, and to help others also become emotionally powerful, because it's a very important card to have emotional power, but not in a way of subconscious emotional releases, but in the way of feelings, true, deep, felt, and consistent feelings. Then we come to Saturn, and in Saturn we find an 8 of diamonds. So we have a very strong card as a birth card, and then we have another 8 as a Saturn card. And Saturn loves order and structure, so it really revels in that 8 of diamonds it finds here. But then again, 8s are power cards, and Saturn's is the teacher. And here, even though there is a very strong and even card in Saturn, Saturn reminds the 8 of hearts not to abuse its power, but here it's not about emotional power, it's about value power. Saturn pushes the 8 of hearts to take full responsibility of its material and energetic influence. You're here to stand tall in what you believe is worth investing in. Diamonds are about values, not only material values, but also spiritual values, intangible values. Diamonds are about our compass when it comes to values. Diamonds are or represent the autumn or fall quarter of the year, where we do engage in harvest, because in spring and in summer, we've sown and we've tended to the things that we have planted or sown. And then when it comes to autumn, that's when harvest time kicks in. And when harvest time kicks in, there's always an imbalance, and that because not all harvest is equal, and that inevitably means that there's going to be some evaluation. So evaluation means value. So what is better than the others? What is more useful? What is more in alignment? What is more truthful? What is more divine? And essentially and eventually, what is more harmonious? And here with the Eight of Diamonds in Saturn, a constant reminder for the Eight of Hearts to have a strong set of values, and that strong set of values is reliable and dependable, is a guideline, a light for others. Once again, with that 10 of Clubs in Jupiter, helping others, teaching others about all these kind of subjects, that needs a strong value system for the Eight of Hearts, because otherwise it won't be able to teach, won't be able to convey anything, and won't be able to fulfill this very special and very important role. Then we come to our Uranus card, and here we find a fixed card, and that is a King of Spades. King of Spades is a very strong card. Uranus is about unpredictability. So here we have the energy of mastery in very unpredictable places. Kings don't follow the rules. Kings create their own rules. And here this becomes even more apparent under the influence of Uranus, because Uranus doesn't follow the rules. Uranus is here to break up. Uranus is here to renew. Uranus is here to uplift mankind. And with a King of Spades in Uranus, you can imagine that there's a very, very strong card. It's about friendship. It's about creating something out of the order and the structure that has been established by Saturn, but in a new and novel way. And that might be a challenge for the King of Spades, because a King of Spades, being a king in the last suit, last card in the last suit, makes it rather inflexible at times, because it thinks it knows everything. And kings in general can, on the negative side, be rather rigid. So this is a call again for the Eight of Hearts not to be too rigid when it comes to renewal. Be open, live and flow with unpredictability, but always from a position of mastery, always from a position of higher consciousness, because that's what the number 13 stands for. So trust your long-range instincts. You're meant to lead in unseen ways. And that brings us to our Neptune card, and that is the Three of Hearts, the Mercury card on the Mercury line. The Three of Hearts is about emotional diversity, emotional creativity. It comes out of the Two of Hearts, where we had the emotional stability, and now we add 1 to the 2, makes 3. So all of a sudden, new emotional ways open up. And I think that is quite befitting after that rather rigid and strict and elevated King of Spades in whatever planetary position. You know, after the King of Spades always follows the Three of Hearts, certainly in the Master Life spread or in the mundane spread that we are talking about here now. So that Three of Hearts under Neptune means that there's emotional choice, but there's also a struggle to ground that emotional choice, because Neptune deceives, Neptune isn't clear, Neptune certainly heals, and it certainly heals the emotions for the Eight of Hearts, but only if that is governed by clarity and strategic, sovereign thought and decisions. And that is the Three of Hearts on the high side. On the low side, the Three of Hearts is always about indecision in terms of emotions, worry not getting enough love. But now at the end of that life cycle, the Eight of Hearts should have learned how to manage and regulate emotions, how to use the power rather than abuse it, because it has a lovely and strong life sequence. And with that Three of Hearts in Neptune, it should have clarity about its emotions. It should be strategic, wise, determined, and no longer fall prey to the negative side of being worried of not getting enough love. Yes, they have it, but you can see the dynamics here, because that playboy or playgirl energy and the power that they hold in a way revisits them later in life and checks whether they have learned the lesson throughout life to use the power, be reliable, be stable, be a guiding light for others. Otherwise, they arrive at the end of their lifespan under Neptune and they're completely confused as far as their emotions are concerned. So there's the risk and the reminder for that 8 of Hearts with that 3 of Hearts in Neptune. And what else is said here? The trick is not to rush it. Let your intuition sort the truth from the fantasy, and remember, not all options are equal. That brings us to our final planet here, and that is Pluto. Pluto having a lifelong influence, and here we have the Ace of Clubs, and the Ace of Clubs is the card of desiring knowledge, desire Ace, knowledge clubs, and the Ace of Clubs being a semi-fixed card with the 2 of Hearts. Once again, a Hearts theme indirectly here connected to the Ace of Clubs. The transformation here for the 8 of Hearts lies in acquiring knowledge, and here acquiring knowledge particularly or mainly on the emotional side, so that they live an emotionally balanced life, a life that is in alignment, where their thoughts, their thinking is in alignment, which is indicated by the 6 of Clubs. And look again, we have a 6 of Clubs, a Clubs card in Mercury. We have a Clubs card in Jupiter, the 10 of Clubs, and then we have a Clubs card, the Ace of Clubs in Pluto. And once again, aces, 10s, 5s, and 10s are more self-centered, which perfectly fits into the scheme of the 8 of Hearts, because it is so convinced about its charm and its emotional power that it can become a little bit self-centered and isolated. And there's certainly always the risk for that they abuse the power. Abuse is like a strong word, I know, but that they don't handle their power appropriately. And the Ace of Clubs reminds them in Pluto, lifelong transformation is about learning, learning, learning. Here more on the emotional side, on the communication side, how to communicate the energy that is being expanded from the 8 of Hearts, which is emotions, feelings, popularity. But that always needs to be handled well, because again, the heart suit is for spring, club suit stands for summer. They go hand in hand, one hands off to the other, so there is a connection between the two. And obviously anything that is related to emotions, anything that is related to feelings, anything that is related to relationships brings with it an element of communication, an element of understanding. And that understanding then helps us create harmony on the emotional, on the feelings, on the relationship side. And here, that 8 of Hearts is constantly reminded through that Pluto card to learn, and to apply that they have learned, in order to be a light for others on the emotional side, on the emotional power side. 8 of Hearts. Let's have a look at what else we can say here about the Pluto card. Pluto always pushes for transformation, and with the Ace of Clubs, that transformation happens through focused desire and mental awakening. You're here to reinvent your mindset over and over again. Old ideas will break down, new passions will emerge. The question is, are you willing to let go of what you think you know to find what truly lights you up? And that brings us to the end of our quick summary, or extended summary rather, of the 8 of Hearts. Once again, sit with it, revisit the cards, notice which ones are showing up most in your life. And as always, awareness is your ally. Awareness here in terms of the entire life sequence of the Eight of Hearts, card of emotional power and attraction, having a very interesting life path, one with 2 sixes that bring in the element of compromise and responsibility, and that also carry, both on the mental side and the relationship side, carry an element of lethargy, because the sixes, they can get stuck in a rut and they need to prod themselves again and again to see things in a different way, to approach things in a different way, but also always staying on the straight and narrow. I hope you like it, that Eight of Hearts, and if you did, please feel free to subscribe to this channel, add a like and add a comment if you are an Eight of Hearts. Would really love to know how and how that resonates with you. And if it does, then don't forget to watch the other videos of people that you know that have other Hearts card as birthday cards. Otherwise, I'll see you with the Nine of Hearts. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.